Hey everyone, this is Faisal, certified high performance coach and a lifelong student of philosophy, spirituality, and sciences. Today is challenge day 17, and today's challenge topic is relationships. Very important topic. Before I go into the topic, once again, as always, I want to take the time to thank all those who are participating in this important and life-changing discussion. I want to thank all those who have been sharing and liking the posts, who have been thinking about the posts even though they haven't been commenting. I know that you guys are thinking about it, so might as well just put your thoughts out in the comment section. You never know, you might learn something. So once again, thank you guys very much. Thank you for being so supportive. Thank you for participating with each other. Thank you for teaching each other. Thank you for learning from each other. So once again, today's topic is relationships. I've got two questions for you. Question number one, what do your relationships mean to you? Really think about this, because it's a very important idea. We take it for granted, but I want you to think about every aspect of your relationships. What do your relationships mean to you? And question number two, this is hard for some. What do you do on a consistent basis to consciously increase the quality of your relationships? Or in other words, what do you do consistently to try to make your relationships better? Really think about this. And if you haven't thought about this, I want you to think about what you can do to raise the quality of your relationships. Relationships. As important a concept as it is, the reason I brought it up after 16 episodes, after 16 topics, is there's a very important reason behind it, and it's the same reason why I teach personal development. It's the same reason why I focus on the individual more rather than relationships. Because unless the individual is connected, unless the individual is centered, unless an individual is thoughtful, unless an individual is compassionate, fulfilled, happy, and joyous within himself or herself, there's very little chance that that individual's relationships will be better. There's very little chance that our relationships will amount to something beyond obligations unless we make our internal life better. And this is not something new that I'm telling you guys. It has been talked about for thousands of years. Religion has talked about this. Philosophy has talked about this. The great teachers such as Socrates, Plato, great spiritual teachers such as Jesus, Lao Tzu, Muhammad, they all talk about this idea that the person has to make an effort to make his or her own life better. Person has to put in the effort, the work, to try to create a life within themselves that would basically bring out that life to the external world. And that's why we have all kinds of practices, from trying to do prayers, meditations, to be thoughtful. And even though we all live in societies that are nowhere close to perfect, and none of us are close, and that's why none of us are close to any kind of, normally any kind of standard where we can be happy about a lot of times, because the societies that we are brought up in, the evolutionary stage that we're in as human beings, at least many of the cultures, many of the societies, we're not in a state of harmony with each other. And that's why it becomes every individual's responsibility. That's the reason why I think my work is very important, very crucial, because when we think about it, if every individual takes responsibility within themselves, their family structure starts to change. They start to affect other people positively. And when the family becomes positive, the family starts to affect other families around them, and those families coming together, they affect the community. Communities getting better, coming together, they affect society. Societies coming together make a better world. And finally, it has to start from somewhere, and it always starts from the person, from you. Not from your partner, not from your parents, not from your siblings, not from anybody else. You have to take charge of your life, and then you will be able to inspire, influence, and lead people towards a positive direction. And that's why it's so important, and that's the main reason why I even brought up this topic later on, because unless a person consciously makes the effort to be better, unless a person consciously makes the effort to make their interactions better, unless a person consciously makes the effort to prioritize that aspect of themselves that says, okay, I'm not perfect, but I try to be better every day. And this is very important. And when we talk about relationships, so what happens in relationships? Why are they so complicated? I mean, this is a very important aspect of our life. And let's start from the basics. Where do relationships come from? Obviously, relationships come from family. As human species, we're born into a family. And then within that family, we're brought up, we're taught everything that we know, we get our perceptions from that environment, and then that bigger family that we're a part of, our community, in that world that we live in, that society that we live in, we learn more and we get different understanding of the world. So it always starts from the family, and this is where a lot of the dysfunction happens. And if you look at this biologically, human beings, there's a very as mammals that we are, there's a very distinct way that we're born, and many biologists and researchers talk about this, that humans are born 3 months premature. Reason being is that if we were born 3 months after, we wouldn't fit through the birth canal, through the birth canal of the mother. And if you compare that, a human baby, to a baby, let's say from a horse, the horse on the first day starts to run around and walk around and can take care of itself quite a bit compared to a human baby, which can barely move around. So it's very dependent on the caregiver, the parents, to take care of itself. That's why our primary need becomes love, that many people don't get. It's not food, it's not shelter, it's none of the others. Because if there's no love from between the parents and the child, there is no food, there is no care, there is no shelter, there is nothing else. So that primary need becomes love for us. And that's what creates the other, facilitates the other needs that we have of food, water, shelter, and the rest of it. So when we think about that, we're very sensitive to approval from our environment, specifically from our family, specifically from our parents. So however our parents' perception is, however they think, whatever they embody, whatever they are, however they are, that we pick up a lot of that. And whatever they accept within us, whatever they reject within us, we're very sensitive to that approval and rejection. And that's where a lot of our challenges come from. And it is not to blame parents, because as one writer talked about this and said that we're all victims of victims. We've been passing down information that should have been learned from a long time ago, but it keeps getting passed down from one generation to the other, and we don't have the tools to correct it. And at some point, we have to make a choice as parents or as caregivers that we need to be conscious of ourselves. And that's where personal development comes in. That's where spirituality comes in. That's where philosophy comes in. We're taught that we need to be better in ourselves to have better families. And I'll go into that in another topic in parenting and childhood experiences, but this was the basic of where do our challenges start. So when we have parents who haven't dealt with their challenges, with their emotional issues from their family, they pass those issues on to their children. When we have parents that are always in conflict with each other, mainly because they have conflict within themselves, then that conflict gets passed around to the children. And if you consider yourself a child of somebody, which we all are, you will notice that many of your emotional issues, many of your thought challenges, much of your negativity comes from that early childhood environment. And now it's being proven with evidence from neuroscience, from psychology, from early childhood education. They're all pointing to the idea that children are very sensitive at that age, and whatever happens in that environment becomes a big part of who they are. And this goes on to explain what happens in our romantic relationships, what happens with our relationships with our friends, where whatever void that was left within us in that early childhood time, that void, whether that be of lack of love, lack of attention, lack of care, lack of protection, lack of security, all those things, they start to subconsciously come out from within us. So what does that mean? That means that without even us being consciously aware, I talked about the subconscious mind, we carry that pain within us. When we talked about the emotions, we talked about that. We carry that emptiness within us, and many people are completely unaware of it. That's the reason why you've probably heard that we subconsciously find partners, romantic partners, that kind of mirror our parents. And this is specifically parents who were kind of distant in some way from us, or some attribute of that parent that was kind of distant from us, or some attribute that we want to bring it back. Why is that? Because our body has its own intelligence, our mind has its own intelligence, our emotions has its own intelligence, and it's a self-healing mechanism. So what does that mean? If you didn't experience something that you were naturally meant to experience in that childhood, you're going to keep repeating that throughout your body, throughout your life, until you experience that. So if you felt lonely, if you felt not protected enough, you will find partners that embody a similar characteristic to your parent. So that however that your parent was, that partner would embody that, would be similar to that, and you will try to seek that same protection or safety from that person. And we keep trying to do that over and over until we become aware of ourselves. Why do we do that? And this is where self-awareness is very important, because we need to become very acutely aware of why we do the things that we do. Why do we get attracted to certain things? We talked about that vague and abstract topic last time, attachment. And basically what attachment is that we try to fulfill a need within us through other people. So we get attached, and not even just other people, we get attached to people, to things, to ideas, because we're trying to fulfill something that was not met within us. Whether that be an emotional need, a biological need, or a spiritual need, whatever that might be, that was not met at a certain age. So what ends up happening is that many people carry that subconscious pain within themselves. Now, does that justify how we are towards each other? Does that justify that we are angry at each other? Does that justify that we are not compassionate enough, that we're not understanding enough? No, it does not. Regardless of how dysfunctional our societies are, how dysfunctional our families are, and the more you study families, you'll find that there's dysfunction in every family. It just varies between one level or another. So there are varying levels of dysfunction in every family. And we carry that dysfunction with us into our adulthood. So this brings up a very important topic, and many people, whether that be and I always talk about the Eastern cultures and the Western culture and whatever is in between, but the East has a very different, psychology talks about that as collectivistic cultures, and then the West, the more individualistic modern cultures that are in North America and Europe. Even though their behavior in terms of how they approach life is different, we're all human beings. We have certain basic needs, and those needs are the same all over the world. And the primary need for that is love and that connection and that security within that family. And regardless of where you are, if those needs weren't met at some level, you're going to have challenges in your adult life. And so what do we do about this? Why those challenges we all face at one level or another? The basic idea is to become self-aware, and that's why I try to make these videos. I try to study as much as I can, and that's why I have practiced all these things in my life to try to make my relationships better. And trust me when I say it works. I've helped other people make their lives better by addressing these ideas and getting them to become more self-aware about themselves. So then, where do we go from here? So I explained that our emotional wounds, our emotional attachments are the reason we feel unfulfilled a lot of times, because sometime in our childhood certain needs were not met. And we'll talk about those needs, but let's, for the sake of this video, let's talk that primary need is love. And that love was completely not fulfilled. And I'll explain what love is later on in other videos in terms of human family. But for this video, there was some aspect of how we were meant to be loved that was not met in that early childhood life. And so what ends up happening is, for most people, if you pay attention around you and within you, you'll notice that many of your emotional issues are with your family. Many of your challenges are with your family, whether that be your siblings, your parents. You will have some kind of unmet emotional need around there. So for me, when I've tried to research this and I've tried to apply as much of this as I can, and it's an ongoing process. Nobody's perfect in this, and the more you practice being aware, self-aware, the more you become intentional, the better you'll become in your relationships. So the primary thing that I've noticed, even coaching people through this, is that unless you try to heal those emotional wounds first within yourself, and then that connection, try to heal that connection between your family members, between you and your family members, whether that be your parents, your siblings, then there's always that challenge, there's always that burden holding you back, that emotional burden holding you back that was not resolved. And when we think about this, there are many people that have issues with this, whether that be people coming from very close family ties to people who don't have close family ties, and they say that they're close to their friends, but even friends are an idea of an extension of a family, because whatever relationship you have with your friends will be a reflection of the relationship you have with your family. You might trust each other better, you might be more open with each other, but there are attributes of you that are connected to your family that you're going to express in your friendships and your romantic relationships. So unless you resolve those issues within your family, it becomes very hard to keep being in relationships with other people. And that's why one philosopher, Manly Palmer Hall, a great philosopher of our time, said that being in a family is an initiation to be in society. So being part of a family basically prepares you to deal with the rest of the world, with the rest of humanity, which is your bigger family in essence. So then, how do we deal with this? I talked about self-awareness, but the next step, and for many people, it might be completely challenging to even deal with another person. Even if they've resolved their issues within them, the other person might not might not be at a level where they have become self-aware. So what do you do in those cases? Like I said, it always starts from you. When you resolve issues within yourself, it automatically starts to affect your environment. It will definitely start affecting your relationships. But even in that case, if the other person doesn't try enough, which is very unlikely because you will affect other people, and it takes time, so you have to be patient with people. You have to be patient with yourself, because the habits that we form throughout our lives, the changes take time and effort and conscious effort. And when that happens, doesn't mean that you give up on people. Sometimes it might mean that you move away to heal or to allow the other person to grow. Sometimes it might mean that you give them time to grow on their own and give them the support they need. But what it doesn't need is for people to give up. We're becoming part of a world where people give up too easily on each other. People give up too easily on relationships, whether that be family relationships, romantic relationships, or friendships, where we've gotten into this idea that, oh, okay, there are other people that are going to come our way. That's fine. There are relationships that are necessary to become very toxic at a level where we can't deal with them. Even that's fine, but we need to understand, we need to ask ourselves, did we do our very best to try to make our relationships better? And it always goes back to yourself. Did you make yourself better? And then did you consciously apply what you learned about yourself to make your relationships better? And if you can honestly answer that, if you can ask your conscience that part of you that knows the difference between right and wrong, and you get the answer that you made all the effort that you did, then you can move on. But if you ask yourself that and a part of you says that, no, you haven't tried everything, then it's not time to move on. It's time to try. Try and try again. Not because you want to give to the other person, because you need to heal yourself. And you need to heal and when you heal yourself, you're healing your family. When you're healing your family, you're healing your community. When you're healing your community, you're healing the whole world. But the other side of the coin is that if you don't heal yourself, if you give up on your connections, on your emotions, on yourself, on your thoughts, it starts to affect your other relationships that you think might be new relationships, and it's a clean slate, but it doesn't happen like that in reality. The reality is that we carry those emotional wounds within us it doesn't matter what other relationships you get into. Whether that be a new romantic relationship or a new friendship, when you become friends with people, you will carry those challenges in those relationships. And no matter what you do, you'll keep facing it. As one person asked Buddha, it's a little bit of a long story, but the idea is that, let's say if a person is not trying to correct an issue or a challenge within themselves, a quality that needs to be corrected, what would happen? And Buddha simply says that, well, then it's going to keep coming back and he's going to have to fix it. And what if he doesn't fix it then? It's going to keep coming back. And finally he's like, what if he doesn't fix it in this lifetime? And since Buddha had the idea of reincarnation, he said it's going to keep coming back in different lives until that is corrected within that person. So it's a learning experience. Unless we learn from our mistakes, unless we learn from what we've done, or unless we learn from what we've gone through and we try to correct it, then those challenges keep coming back to us. And here's the other idea. When we correct an issue within us, whether that be anger towards people, or fear, or sadness, or disconnection from people, once we correct it, it's corrected. You don't need to ever do that again. So it's just a matter of keep trying to get that done. And I know it's challenging, it's easier done than said, but we're all on this journey, and every one of us can make a difference. And it all starts from you. It all starts from me. And when we all do our part, then whatever relationships that we create, whether that be a new family of our own, or new friendships, they will blossom. They'll affect your life in a positive way, and they'll affect other people's life in a positive way, and you'll create a circle of positive energy around you. And once you create that, then there's very little chance that negativity would be around you, or things that would affect you negatively. So it's something that we really need to consider and think about. Whether you're a parent, whether you're a brother, you're a sister, you're a husband, you're a wife, whatever relationship, you're a friend, you think about, they all start with you. You need to make yourself better. But I'll also give you 3 tips or 3 ideas that you can apply to your relationships while you're healing yourself in the process, because that healing process is a lifelong process, and we continuously work towards that. But then as we learn from positive psychology and positive thinking, that we can do certain things, we can condition our mind to do certain things in our life to make our lives better right now, regardless of what challenges we have within ourselves. That doesn't mean that you don't heal yourself from within, you don't pay attention to yourself, you don't become self-aware, but what it does mean is that your mind can be conditioned to do things a certain way. And there are certain things in relationships that we've learned that makes relationships better, and that's what I try to do in my life as much as I can. And those are, let's say, three words. We'll start with the first one. The first one is attention. And other word, and you can call that presence. The people around you need your attention, your undivided attention. It's one of the most important things in relationships, and that attention can be towards yourself and towards another person. So if you don't give yourself presence and attention, you can't give that to other people either. So become present with yourself, and then when you are around people, pay attention to them, pay attention to their needs, pay attention to them while they're talking to you. We've come to a point where all these technologies around us, our phones, our laptops, it's always in front of us, and even though they're devices for communication, it's disconnecting us. Their devices for connection is disconnecting us in our lives, within our relationships. And I see so many people, and sometimes I've been guilty of this, but I try my best to put that stuff aside and pay attention to people, because unless you have that attention, you can't pick up people around you, their body language, you can't pick up their verbal cues, you can't have that empathy towards them of what they're going through, you can't listen to their dreams, you can't be with them, you can't pay attention to them when they're happy, you can't reciprocate kindness. You can't do any of that unless you're present with people and you have attention towards them. So and there was one teacher that said that people don't need your presence, they need your presence. Your presence is the biggest gift you can give to people. Why? Because people need to feel significant. That's a need that we have. We have a need for significance, and if people are paying attention to us, the people that we love, that gives us a form of significance. So go ahead and try that. And we talked about presence. There's nothing wrong with presence in this in itself, but we've become a people, a society in the world where we replace our affection with gifts. We try to buy things to buy people's affection, or give our when we can't give our attention, our time, our presence to people, we replace it with gifts. And there have been times where I've took a stance against this, because I've created relationships, especially with the children in my family, where no gifts whatsoever. Probably once or twice in their lifetime, but I probably have one of the closest relationship with them, because I give them my attention and presence. And that's a very important thing, and everybody needs that. So that's something that you can practice to make your relationships better. And the second one is appreciation. Start appreciating people for who they are, not just for the things that they do for you, but their humanity, their being, whatever they stand for. Appreciate the positive within people. We reject too many things within people. Yeah, everybody has flaws. I have flaws. You have flaws. There's nobody perfect, but we can give this. We can consciously appreciate people by telling them what we appreciate about them, by giving them that attention, by acknowledging the things, the qualities that they have that are admirable, and everybody has them. If you look, you'll find that everybody has qualities that you can admire, that you can learn from. And then the last one is, you can call it adoration, or you can call it affection. We have to show our affection towards people, and many people forget this, and this has been challenging for me too, because I've always been a very reserved person most of my life, but I've had to condition myself to be more affectionate towards people, to show my affection, whether that be through words, or that be through my presence, that be through a smile, that be through an act of kindness, that be through something that I do for somebody. Whatever it is, I make it an intention to create that affection, show that affection in my relationships. And when you do these three things, and they're very basic, again, it's your attention, your presence, your appreciation of another person, and your affection. And we've gotten too used to criticizing people. We've gotten too used to noticing the negative in people. Now we can make an intention, create an intention to try to notice the positive in people. Try to appreciate who they are, the challenges that they went through. And that's very important to understand, that all of us go through a lot of challenges, and many of us, even if we're close to another person, we can't really experience what that person went through throughout their life. It doesn't give them justification for what they do negatively, but it also means that they've learned a lot, that they have a lot to teach us. They have a lot, even if they do negative things, they have a lot to teach us from their perspective. But there is a lot of positive in people. If you look for it, you'll find it. Trust me. So I know this video was long, and it's a very important topic. That's why I had to go a little bit long. I want to hear from you guys now. What do your relationships mean to you? That's question number one. Question number two, what do you do on a consistent basis to increase the quality of your relationships? And if you can't think of that, then what can you do on a consistent basis to increase the quality of your relationships? Thank you very much for paying attention to this long video. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Have a great day. Bye. If you loved or even liked the video or this episode, you can do two things right now. One, you can click on the subscribe tab right here on the screen, or in the info area if you can't click on the screen. So you're up to date on all my free training, on all the free training that I send on my YouTube channel on a regular basis. And two, you can click on the success indicator tab on the screen or in the info section, so you can get the training, the thorough training that I created for you, that has 10 factors that will determine whether or not you will be successful at anything that you do or want to do. And it will also help you create more success at anything that you want to do in life. So, and this will also get you subscribed to my newsletter, so I can send you more of these free training on a regular basis that I don't post on my YouTube channel. So make sure you click on those two buttons or tabs, and make sure you like and share this video. Make sure you post your comments in the comment section below, so we can get more people involved in our community right here. Thank you very much. Have a great day.